Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 1.
Whatever they were waiting for was about to happen now. And suddenly I became aware of something. Something I hadn't noticed. Something that perhaps had not been there to notice. All of them, every last one of them, was carrying or wearing some kind of timepiece. Some had watches the size of pumpkins. There were watches in gold and silver, in porcelain and platinum, in metals hitherto unknown. Clocks of every shape and of every size except small. Clocks of astonishing ingenuity, and some as perverse as bad taste could achieve. One was haloed with seashells, another nestled in a miniature lifebelt. One doubled as the navel of some weird masculine fantasy. Another was embedded in a dead man's skull. One old crone carried appropriately a grandfather clock. The village idiot, unwittingly nonconformist, proudly displayed a sundial. Suddenly, the crowd was silent, and there appeared a tiny man, stepping daintily from the doorway of his house, to be greeted by a cacophony of clock noise, bells, chimes, cuckoos, and buzzers.
Get lost, whoever you are.
I am Magda von Schellenberg.
Never heard of you.
People don't speak to me like that.
Good almighty, it is 4 o'clock in the morning.
Not where I am.
And wherever you are is the centre of the universe.
I am in New York.
Give my regards to Broadway.
Short, sharp burst of biography. On the office door it says in faded gilt lettering, Calman and Calman, solicitors. One of them is me, Peter Douglas Calman. The other Calman had his first and last cornery 2 years ago. He was my uncle. Anything else? Well, yes, I am. And yes, I did. I remember it all and how it ended. Face downward in the Twickenham mud. And I remember the man who did it. And for him, there is an uneasy room in hell. After 4 o'clock in the morning, the experts say things can only get better. I don't agree. After 4 o'clock in the morning, you only get 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. The world gets lighter, but not on that account brighter. 9 o'clock. Breakfast survived, carbuncular porridge, cremated toast, washed down with an instant something. 9 o'clock, and off to the office, where a man awaited me, 40-ish, sturdy, shaved so close it must have been done from the inside, wearing thick tweeds that had been bought from a mail-order catalogue 20 years ago.
A fine morning, Mr. Calman.
You're on the road early this morning, Jock.
Well, maybe draw a rain later on.
What is it, Jock?
I thought I would tell you myself.
Uh-huh.
I mean, are a pride, if you see what I mean.
No, Jock, I don't.
I'm talking about the wife.
Well, there's nothing wrong with her, I hope.
No, she's right as the mail. It's just that... Well, I mean to say... No, what I'm trying to get round to is that she'll no be coming back.
Back to work, you mean?
I just so.
I thought she was quite contented.
Oh, she is. She is. You mustn't blame her.
Well, there's no question of blame involved.
I've been idle now these 2 years. And they tell me it's no as bad as it was in my father's day. I think it is, Mr. Calman, every bit as bad.
At least you don't have to starve nowadays.
When I married Mary, there was nothing in the bargain about her keeping me.
So that's it.
That's it.
Some folk might say you're being a bit selfish.
Mary and me have been into all that.
Then there's nothing more to be said.
I've no right to say this, Mr. Calman.
Say it anyway.
Mary thought you might no be sorry to see her go.
What put that into her head?
She says it might help having one less wage to pay.
She dreamed that up all by herself.
There's a rumour going around that you're having a bad time financially.
He would say no more, but shortly afterwards took his clumsy leave and clumped out into the morning street that smelled of last night's frost and today's new bread. I sat there, helping nothing to happen. 'Twas all as exciting as watching cow dung harden. Nobody called to invite me to appear on This Is Your Life, or to breathe heavily at me, or to explain to me why Mary should suddenly desert the sinking ship, and who had mentioned to her that the ship was sinking. You could feel the morning freshness wear off like makeup, and the early silence was raped and raped and raped again by the heavy lorries pounding along the A75 to Stranraer, trying not to kill too many people on the way. And the farmers' wives had come to town, and the supermarket screeched with shopping trolleys, and the licence grocers were doing a land office business. And it was time for my appointment at the bank.
Mr. Anderson will see you in a moment.
What is he doing?
Mr. Anderson...
Feeding sugar lumps to the computer?
Mr. Anderson...
Call him Piggy. Everybody else does.
Well, everyone else doesn't work for him.
You could be wrong there.
You can go in now.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson was my bank manager, and there was nothing wrong with him that death wouldn't cure.
We'd been at school together, and there were other things we once had in common, like Alice what's her name, who used to go to church with him on Sunday mornings, and to extreme lengths with me on Sunday afternoons.
Ah, good of you to drop in, Peter.
Come off it, Piggy.
I wish you wouldn't call me that.
No?
Especially...
With my overdraft. Was that what you were about to say?
Especially in front of my staff.
Can I do it behind your back?
I can't stop you.
Can you stop yourself?
What does that mean?
Jock Matheson came to see me this morning.
Well?
He more or less told me I was broke.
He more or less told you the truth.
Yes, but where did he hear it?
His wife works in your office?
Mary has worked for me for almost 10 years. She wouldn't have lasted 10 minutes if you hadn't been trustworthy.
Could we discuss this overdraft
Just
of
let
yours?
me say this first.
If you must.
Mary's husband has been out of work a long time. The chances are he'll never work again. That doesn't stop him hanging round the cattle market the way old boxers hang round the gym.
I'm afraid...
And so you bloody well should be. You're not averse to hanging round the cattle market yourself, Piggy.
Business takes me there, occasionally.
And you can't talk business all the time you're there, can you?
You know how farmers love to gossip.
Only too well.
I'm not going to discuss this a minute longer, Calman. To begin with, I haven't the time. Secondly, you have already made up your mind that I am responsible for what people are saying.
Well, aren't you, Piggy?
What do you intend doing to reduce this overdraft?
He was a smooth customer, in the way that rocks can be smooth. And when we parted frostily, half an hour later, he took my chequebook and my credit cards, but allowed me to keep my contempt for him, and my conviction that I was getting the best part of the bargain. The town's main street was swarming now with people, the shops blazoned forth, each its heraldic smell. Warm and yeasty from the baker's, from the ironmonger, the crucifixion smell of nails. The garden shop held suspended the scents of next year's spring, and from the Church of Scotland bookshop, the sour, bleak odour of sanctity. And high above them all, yellow and bright and cold as the November sunshine, the stink of money, everywhere. Except where I was, in my small oasis of near bankruptcy. So, I made my way back to my office, where a visitor awaited me on the stairs, a very old visitor, and very unexpected.
Your girl seems to be out.
Sorry about that, Mr. Hansford.
Do you mind if I step in for a wee while?
Oh, welcome.
Place hasn't it changed a bit?
Aye.
Does you credit, Peter? Aye, that it does.
Are you sending me up, Mr. Hansford?
Not me, Peter, not me. My worst enemy would never accuse me of having a sense of humour.
Uh-huh. And what can I do for you?
Aye, 23 years since I last set foot in this office, Peter. Hasn't it changed a bit?
The occasional lick of paint.
Man, I like that, Peter. Shows a proper respect for your uncle's memory. None of this modern carry-on turning a man's place tops arteria for the brace properly out his body.
Mr. Hansford.
Ah, you're going to tell me you're busy.
Wrong.
I'm glad you're prepared to do me the favour of no insulting my intelligence. You see, Peter, it's common knowledge that the firm of Calman and Calman hasn't been busy, in any meaningful sense of the word, this long time.
We get by.
Ah, man, that sounded just like your uncle.
Is that bad?
You manna put words in my mouth, son. I held your uncle in great respect. Best judge of a horse I ever met.
Except maybe in a betting shop.
Ah, well, Peter, you said it, no me. Mind ye, I wouldn't altogether disagree with you. I ken a wheen the Wheeldane men took their business away from your uncle because I seemed to be at Lanark races when they needed his advice.
Oh, well, maybe he figured they should do their own dirty work.
Us lawyers can't afford to be fakey. Did there no used to be a painting hung up in that mantelpiece?
I took it home.
The insurance folk would insist likely.
No, I was just fond of it.
I admired that painting. Gin you were ever...
You'll have the first refusal.
There'll be no refusal. I can promise you that.
He was right there. It's difficult to refuse what will never be offered. The message seemed to get through to him, and his 80-year-old eyes went curiously blank, and he made a strange, non-committal noise in his throat and went shuffling off, as though trying to erase his footsteps in case somebody had followed him there. In anybody else, it would have been persecution mania. In old Hansford, it was the way life had taught him people were. Life and the law. After he'd gone, leaving behind him the strange, dry smell of age, a smell like leaf mould, I sat and thought about him. The word was getting round about the parlous state of Calman and Calman's finances. The word was getting round, and the vultures were gathering. They were still gathering when the phone rang. Peter Caiman?
Well, you sound brusque.
That has to be Jenny Oliver.
How did he know?
Who else would pronounce brusque the French way? So, what do you want? My company or my skilled professional advice?
Both, perhaps. Tell him more when I see you.
Which will be when?
About an hour. Ciao.
Ciao. Everybody loved Jenny Oliver, but Jenny loved nobody. Or more accurately, Jenny loved everybody, and when you love humanity, restricting yourself to a single human being seems a curious kind of meanness. Jenny loved causes, so maybe she had a point. Can you imagine Joan of Arc hanging out nappies, or becoming a pillar of the PTA? On the hour, prompt as prompt, there she was.
Well, as the unemployed bishop said to the Pope, long time no see.
You make that up all by yourself.
Oh, Lord, does it sound that bad?
Yes. Where are we going?
The Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital. To see a friend of mine.
Anybody I know?
Don't think so.
A relative, lover, or just the usual lame duck?
Lame duck.
But not very lame.
What do you mean?
The Spencer Watsons are private hospital.
Go on.
They don't take your pulse there, they check your bank balance.
Tim hasn't got a bank balance.
Who the hell is Tim?
I'll tell you about him in the car.
The Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital was 8 miles from the town. 8 miles of the most beautiful country you ever coveted. Its architects were fashionable and Finnish, and a minor royal had laid the foundation stone, which was almost as thick as he was. The staff were reputed to be the most highly paid in Europe, which didn't mean they could keep you alive when that old Democrat Death had made up his mind that you were it.
Tim. You, promised to tell me about Tim.
Oh, so I did. Tim's a hermit.
That's fine as far as it goes, which isn't very far.
He's Welsh.
How do you know?
Because he practically lives on laver bread.
I can see I'm going to have to treat you as a hostile witness. Where does he practically live and live bread?
Dungrennan Bay.
Oh, so that's Tim, is it?
That's Tim. He lives in a shanty, built from driftwood.
Didn't the local rag write him up about a year ago?
Yes, he was furious.
Yeah, he was right. Whoever heard of a front-page hermit? So, Welsh, hermit. What else is Tim?
Age about 60, middle height, no visible scars.
Means of support?
None particularly visible.
You talked to him a lot?
Quite a lot.
Ever mention his background?
Never. If you've any romantic notions about him really being Lord Lucan, forget them.
Not Spencer Watson material.
Definitely not.
So, what makes you think he's there at all?
A note from him on their tasteful, expensive writing paper.
Anything alarming in the letter?
Not in the actual letter.
About you find it rather curious.
Tim could neither read nor write. He was totally illiterate.
The Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital lay to the left of a long and attractive stretch of road that seemed to have its own private climate. The sun always shone here. Flowers probably bloomed out of season and always ended up looking like orchids. We passed through gates that looked as though they were made of gold, but might not have been. The receptionist was a kind of masculine dream made flesh. She seemed to have more teeth than were necessary for anything except aphrodisiac purposes, and her smile made you realize why sunglasses had been invented.
And whom do you wish to see?
Did you say whom?
Oh, doesn't everybody?
We'd like to say hello to a patient here.
Name, please?
Mine or his?
His. Tim Layton.
And to what doctor has he been assigned?
Do you remember, Jenny?
No, but it won't crack her bloody nail varnish to find out.
Jenny.
Perhaps you and the lady might care to wait in one of the waiting rooms.
You can bring us 2 gin and tonics while we're waiting.
Jenny, for God's sake.
We went into the waiting room, the one with the David Hockneys on the ivory-coloured walls and the carpet that looked like a transmuted blood transfusion, but only if your blood was blue. There were little tables bearing magazines printed on glossy paper that looked expensive enough to be used as currency. Everything evoked a sanitized world where no one belched or sweated or broke wind, and it obviously evoked in Jenny a desire to do all 3.
Yuck.
She's only a girl doing a job.
Oh, the 20th century alibi.
Well, she is.
I'll tell you what she is. She's a failed Miss World.
Your prejudice is showing.
Peter,
I'm afraid there's been some mistake.
I didn't think mistakes were allowed in a place like this.
Well, we're only human after all.
Could I have a second opinion on that?
You, said there'd been some mistake.
We have no patient here called Layton.
We drove back down the avenue, past the flaring rhododendrons, imperial and purple. Once, a peacock strutted across our path and fixed us with a beady patrician eye as we gave it right of way. Then we passed through the gates of gold, and Jenny spoke.
She was lying. Miss Herpes, 1984, she was lying.
And why should she do that?
Because somebody told her to.
Oh, come on, Jenny.
Right pain in the arse she was.
Yes, I think you made that quite clear.
You noticed anything?
I noticed that you never mentioned the letter from your illiterate friend.
Good for you.
And you're going to tell me now why you didn't.
Because whoever wrote that letter may be someone who's still inside the hospital. And if that's the case, it might turn out to be important one of these days.
I pulled the car into a lay-by, beside a concrete bin that was jammed with the debris of picnics past, redundant Coke tins, broken thermos flasks, plastic bottles, orange peel, dead magazines. And I sat and looked across the landscape, and a curlew cried its cry of incurable grief.
Why have we stopped here?
I want to talk to you.
What about?
The day the world ended.
A bit premature, aren't it?
Depends on whose world we're talking about.
Whose world are we talking about?
Ours.
Did we have one?
Yes. And could have again.
Are you suggesting we take up where you left off?
Well, I wouldn't exactly have put it that way, but yes.
Bed and all.
Oh, for God's sake, you make me sound like something Hemingway wrote.
I'm sorry.
You saw what happened to me.
Was that the day the world ended?
Yes.
Pissy little world.
Pissy little me.
I didn't say that.
You didn't have to. It's a conclusion I arrived at all by myself.
Bully for you.
Is that all you can say?
Self-pity always embarrasses me.
Someone has said that we have art in order that we may not perish from truth. In a world where both art and truth are manufactured commodities, this strikes me as one of the most dangerous and foolish and irresponsible remarks ever made. I had learned my truth the hard way, in a humiliation of helplessness and occasional despair and futile anger. It was not much of a truth, not magic, not universal, perhaps not important, except that it was the only truth I had. A truth arrived at painfully in a hospital bed. We drove back in silence and parted like the strangers we'd suddenly become. I climbed the stairs to my office and sat there for an hour, watching the room reflect the pointlessness of my life. And then the telephone rang, and my morale immediately guessed the wrong number. But my morale was wrong.
Is that 4419?
It is.
Have you the Gaelic?
Have you the right number?
Hang up and switch on your answering machine.
I did as I was told and sat back, thinking about the voice. Highland, obviously, both from what she said and the way she said it. But apart from that, why, where, who, when, and all the other interrogatives. I lined them up and let them wait for 30 minutes, keeping them company. Then I switched on the machine to hear what I had.
Hín siop driaken gut ma ye na voti. Ha mi hollitje ma ye. Ha mi hiorot a hongerle. Ha mi dolgewant local hero noch.
I sat, playing it back over and over again as though mere repetition would unlock its secret. Then I did what I should have done in the first place and telephoned Donald McLeod. He was one of our 3 newsagents and voted SMP and came from Stornoway. He arrived at the office within minutes and listened several times to the message and gave me an old-fashioned look.
Ha mi dolgewant local hero noch.
And what have you been up to?
Just translate it, eh?
Who's the bird?
Bonnie Prince Charlie.
No way. She was Polish.
Translate, Donald. Translate.
They lied to you about the old man. I am unhappy about him. Mm-hmm. I need your advice. I am going to see local hero tonight. What's that all about?
It's a publicity stunt for a movie. The little cinema opened at 6, and at 6 I was there, parked opposite its dreary frontage, and feeling like a cross between a private eye and a boy in a blind date. Would she show up? Who was she? What was the advice she needed? Why was she unhappy about the old man? 2 hours dragged past, and I was beginning to relive that adolescent sense of outrage and anger and frustration when someone tapped on the car window. A beef-fed face stared in as I wound the window down. Liquid blue eyes the colour of ancient denim, slack mouth like an old and empty purse. Constable Archie Douglas, the local policeman.
Waiting for somebody, Mr. Calman.
Am I not allowed to park here?
Would her name be Morag Nicolson?
It might be.
She's at the Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital.
And what's she doing there?
She's in the mortuary.
In Episode 1 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Caiman was played by David Ashton. Jenny was played by Stella Forge, Magda von Schellenberg by Vivienne Dixon, Old Hansford by Ian Stewart, Constable Archie Douglas by Robert Paterson, Jock Matheson by John Shedden, Nurse Nicolson by Anne Cullen, the bank clerk and the hospital receptionist by Tamara Kennedy, and Piggy Anderson and Donald McLeod by John Buick. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner. Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 2. Peter Caiman, a small-town lawyer in Galloway, is having problems with his career, with his unsympathetic bank manager, and with his ex-girlfriend, Jenny. She has taken up the cause of Tim Layton, an old hermit who's been put in a local private hospital against his will. The hospital, in turn, has denied all knowledge of Layton's existence. Then a cryptic message on a telephone answering machine takes Peter Caiman to a meeting with a young nurse.
Shock is a kind of mental blast, and just as unpredictable. All that went through my mind when I heard about Morag Nicolson was an old Cole Porter tune. It was called Miss Otis Regrets. Round and round it went in my head, fragmented, bits of it appropriate, bits of it totally absurd. And all the time the bovine face of Constable Archie Douglas hanging in the outside darkness like a bull looking over a black hedge.
Are you all right, Mr. Calman?
What happened to her?
She was knocked down and killed by a hit-and-run driver.
Any idea when it happened?
We're still working on that.
There's nothing I can do, is there?
Don't think so, Mr. Calman.
I'll say good night, then.
Good night, Mr. Calman.
The house is called Pisgah, after the hill that Moses stood on to view the Promised Land. Though what Promised Land my great-grandfather had in mind when he built it, with his own hands and out of the local stone, has never been divulged. I should have sold it long ago and bought a bijou residence with central heating and wall-to-wall domestic computers. Most of my acquaintances had already done this, although they called the computers wives. The house was cold, and smelt of damp, ancient mice and things mouldering in attics. Generations of dead toys, furniture with incurable wounds, piles of magazines tied together with hairy twine, old, faded curtains bled of colour. Suddenly I was sick of the house and everything in it, including myself. I didn't know I'd been asleep until I was awakened by the front door bell.
Sorry to call so late, Peter.
What time is it anyway?
Oh, it's just about 12.
Come in.
I saw your light was still on.
I fell asleep sitting on the sofa.
Well, that's what sofas are for, eh?
His name was Dunsmore, Isaiah Dunsmore. And with a name like that, and the kind of parents who would give a child a name like that, you can imagine his school days. His father had alternated between bouts of burning bush evangelism and spectacular drinking bouts. Yet he himself had emerged from this unscathed, a man of integrity, no respecter of persons, fiercely independent, as honest as daylight, which might explain to the cynical why he was still only a sergeant in the police force. I took him into the sitting room, and he stood, looking round it, as though making an inventory.
This room hasn't changed in 25 years.
Old Hansford said much the same thing about the office. He took it as a mark of respect for my uncle.
More likely a sign that you're fed up with both places, eh?
You could be right.
I'd like to ask you something.
Go ahead.
What were you doing sitting in your car outside the picture house tonight?
Did Archie Douglas not tell you?
Well, I'd like to hear it for you.
I was waiting for a girl.
Morag Nicolson?
I don't know.
Come on, Peter.
It's the truth.
Can't accept that.
No, I don't blame you.
Listen, just stick to the point, Peter.
All right. Here it is. I received a mysterious message from a mysterious lady. She gave me no name, but she said she needed my advice. And then she said she was coming to the cinema that night.
So you went along just out of curiosity?
Maybe I was touting for business.
There has to be more, Peter.
Well, maybe there is. Come along to the office in the morning, I'll let you hear the message.
Right, I'll be there.
In the meantime, you...
No. I've a few shop doors to rattle. Good night.
Good night.
By the way, Peter.
Yes?
Did you know Morag Nicolson was pregnant?
I hadn't known about Morag Nicolson, but the knowledge of her interesting condition did not make sleep any easier. But the night dragged past and let the morning blunder in, and by 10:30 I pronounced myself fit enough to climb the stairs into my office. Isaiah Dunsmore was already in residence, disgustingly fit and bright, and everything I was not, and couldn't remember ever having been.
Good morning, Peter.
I don't think so.
Oh, I think you need some coffee.
The electric kettle's not working.
I fixed it.
Coffee jar's empty.
I went out and I bought a fresh one.
No further objections, my lord.
Oh, how many sugars?
2.
A lady phoned, by the way.
Oh, no, not another one.
Certain Magda von Schellenberg. I wrote it down.
You should come and work for me.
I don't think you could afford me.
I can't even afford to reimburse you for the coffee you bought.
Reimburse? There's a fine legal word. Are you really as broke as people say you are?
Is that what you hear?
A quiet but persistent rumour, Peter. 2 sugars, you said?
What did La Schellenberg want?
She wanted to know if it was possible for a helicopter to land in the main street.
You're joking.
Not me, sir.
Did you tell her the A-75 was specially designed for choppers?
I just told her I had no authority to grant the request. Turned off snooty on me, demanded to be put in touch with somebody who had. I gave her the Provost home number.
You're a daft bugger.
I've got a real snooty number, though. Is she?
I've never seen her.
Good God, Peter, your life seems to be littered with invisible women.
Well, if they're invisible, how would I know?
Now then, that was a weird message on your answering machine.
Did you understand it?
I've got this friend in Glasgow. He's in charge of 200 computers. Calls them all Jimmy.
What has that to do with the message?
Well, you see, he comes for Benbecula.
Gaelic speaking.
Correct.
I got Donald McLeod to do my translating.
That maybe wasn't the smartest thing he ever did.
On that cryptic note, he left. And I went through my mail, which was totally devoid of excitement, and that was all I asked of the GPO nowadays. Then the telephone rang, and it was young Elphinstone from the bank, who was destined for greater things, his father being provost.
Mr. Anderson asked me to call you.
Is that young Elphinstone?
It is, Mr. Calman.
And what is a fine young wing forward like you doing in that whorehouse?
Pining.
I take it from this conversation that Piggy Anderson is out of the office.
He's at the market.
Piggy takes that nursery rhyme too seriously.
He said I was to return your checkbook and credit card.
I don't believe it.
I could send one of the girls up with it.
None of them is pretty enough.
True. Depressingly true.
I'll drop by at the bank later on.
Right. Talk to you later.
Once upon a time, when ritual still meant something, they would parade you in front of the regiment, strip you of your epaulets while some military muscle queen broke your sword over his knee. Nowadays, they take away your credit card. Yesterday, as disgraced as Dreyfus. Today, reinstated with full military honours. What was Piggy up to? And what did he know that I didn't? It is one of time's tyrannies to hold the monopoly of answers to questions like that. I think it was Dean Swift who said that suspense was the life of a spider. I think I agree with him without ever having given the matter too much thought. I've never been very good at sitting around waiting for things to happen. Maybe that's because my birth sign is Aries, a dangerous sign to have around a cattle market. So, I went to the newsagents instead, and browsed through the paperbacks, and listened to Donald McLeod.
You got a body swerve last night.
Did I?
I saw you there waiting, outside the cinema.
Yes, there's a name for folk like you.
Nasty business about that nurse, wasn't it? Morag Nicolson.
Yes.
Was it her you were waiting for?
I don't know any nurses.
And you that long time in hospital?
That was a long time ago.
Is it true she was, in the club?
You'd better ask Sergeant Dunsmore about that. Dunsmore was right. It had been a mistake getting McLeod to translate the Gaelic message on the answering machine. McLeod was a town crier, garrulous, gossipy, a mathematician of the mouth who could take 2 and 2 and twist it into 5. Primitives believe that it is impossible for a man and a woman to be alone together without, you'll pardon the expression, intercourse taking place. Now a scenario was being dreamed up in which I could impregnate a lady simply by hearing her voice, a development that could foreshadow the end of sex as we know it, and make every woman who picked up a telephone a call girl. As I walked down the main street in the diesel-flavoured autumn, I was sick of my small town and its antinomine smugness. Then I saw the car that was parked in the street outside my office. It was the kind of car you moored rather than parked, and the girl who awaited me in my office matched it in every expensive detail. Like it, she was a beautiful and magnificent artifact.
I'm Magda von Schellenberg.
Oh, you're the lady who phones in the middle of the night.
And you are the man who answered so rudely.
Yes. Please sit down. I'm sorry if I upset you.
Oh, you Scotchmen are all like that.
Like what?
Honest and forthright and brave.
Oh, I'm afraid that's propaganda for the tourists.
So you're telling me that such is not the case?
Not in my experience, no.
What is your experience?
That they are devious, treacherous, and cowardly.
Does that apply to you too?
Who am I to say it doesn't?
Would it have applied to your uncle?
My uncle was a very special person. You can't tie down what he was to any single nation. You can only hope that there are and always will be people like him all over the world.
That is a very beautiful thing to have said about him. I wish you to buy, on my behalf, a house.
Have you somewhere specific in mind?
Yes. Well, the place I am after is called Knockdoor Cottage.
How much are you prepared to pay for it?
Up to £1 million.
For that money, you could probably get the Taj Mahal.
Let's talk about it over lunch.
The Crockett Arms was filled with its usual clientele. Cattle buyers from all over, fertilizer salesmen, men in thick tweeds with even thicker accents, men who travelled the country peddling poison in the name of productivity, men with expense account faces smelling of tractor dung, a smattering of local worthies, the editor of the local rag, old Hansford, whose boast it was that he had ordered the same food every lunchtime for 62 years. Every day, broth, roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and apple crumble. Every day except Sundays. Sundays he had lunch at home. Broth and roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and apple crumble. He stared at my companion as we walked into the dining room, and his faded blue eyes almost lit up with a flicker of elderly lust. And he murmured something to the man on his right, Piggy Anderson, my friendly neighbourhood bank manager. A tomb-like silence descended on the room. It came from a kind of social fear. The Crockett Arms had seen nothing like Magda von Schellenberg since the 1880s, when Queen Victoria had been snowbound there on her way north.
Why is everything so quiet?
I think it's a kind of tribute to you.
Have all Scotchmen got false teeth?
Above a certain age, yes. Well, would you care to tell me what you have in mind?
A temple of peace.
And this cottage you want me to purchase has something to do with it?
Yes.
I see.
My dear Peter Caiman, you do not see at all.
No, you're absolutely right.
This cottage, Knockdoor Cottage as it's called, will be the Temple of Peace.
We're not talking here about some weird sect, are we?
We are talking about two fine men now dead who were caught in a terrible war.
Am I allowed to ask who they were?
One of them was my father.
And the other?
The other was my godfather. You are suspicious.
Only about one thing.
Tell me about that one thing.
Why me?
Are you suggesting I should have gone to that old man at the next table? The one who keeps undressing me with his eyes. I think his name is Hansford.
How did you know that?
Oh, I have dossiers on everyone of importance in this town.
I hope you're only joking.
Look, I have to be back in New York tomorrow, and I have things to do before then. You know what I want you to do. If you talk to your bank manager, he'll tell you what financial arrangements have been made.
There's just one more question.
Yes?
Who was your godfather?
His name was the same as yours.
My father?
Your uncle.
Now she had talked about, or rather mentioned, two fine dead men who were caught in a terrible war. One of them was my uncle, and I knew him for a fine man. And I also knew for a fact that he had never been in the forces, and I knew for another fact that he had never been out of Scotland in his life. So where had these fine dead men met, and what had been the circumstances of their meeting? I escorted her to a car, and we said goodbye, and the car glided away like Cleopatra's barge, only bigger. Then I strolled down to the bank, and the staff all stopped whatever they were doing and stared at me, and it was a kind of genuflection.
Come in, Peter. Come in, come in.
Thank you. Did you have a good lunch?
Interesting, Peter. Interesting.
I believe some money may have been paid into my account.
That's right, Peter.
How much?
£1 million.
You think she's good for it?
Well, she's She's vouched for by the Banque Populaire Suisse.
And who are they?
One of the most powerful banking empires in Europe.
The things you know. Any strings attached to this, donation?
Well, not as far as I know. You may, of course, have some private arrangement.
We may indeed. I collected my cheque-book and my born-again credit card and walked out into the afternoon street, a man who had a private arrangement with a lady called Magda von Schellenberg, even if, at the moment, that arrangement could be described as unilateral. It was as much to adjust this balance as anything else that took me to the office of old man Hansford. He was seated in a deep leather armchair that looked as ancient as he was. His office was as bare as a bone, bleak, except for one searing patch of colour, a bunch of magnificent yellow chrysanthemums. He was famous for growing them, and their glorious hue was a shout of joy in the sombre parsimony of that room.
Dung. That's the secret, Peter. Good, honest dung. Plenty of it.
So much for the wonders of modern science.
Aye, you're right there. Well, as I sit here in this office and watch all these cars rattling by to Dumfries and Rar, I think to myself, they're all right as far as they go.
But no dung.
Aye. I was just about to phone you, Peter.
I've saved you the trouble.
Aye. That was a braw bit of stuff you were wi' at lunchtime.
She noticed you letching at her.
I'll no deny that's just what I was doing. But I'm sure you'll forgive me, Peter. I'm only 82.
You were going to phone me.
How would you fancy joining the firm?
I've got a firm of my own.
I'm suggesting a merger.
Oh, I'll have to think it over.
Dinna take too long. It makes sense, you can.
For you or for me?
Me.
Well, at least you're frank.
You know why?
Could it be you've heard a whisper I've come into money?
Well, maybe that's no altogether irrelevant. But there's more to it than that.
Break the habit of a lifetime, Mr. Hansford. Let's have the whole truth.
You're laughing at me.
Mr. Hansford.
Right, Peter, laugh away, but mind this, son, the last laugh is aye the best laugh.
That sounds rather ominous.
I'm saying name here.
Well, if you can't take a joke.
What can I do for you, Mr. Calman?
Well, if you're going to be
Come
like...
to the point, Mr. Calman.
Very well. I believe you act as agent for a property called Nocturne Cottage.
Nocturne?
I'd like to have a look at it with a view to purchasing it.
You want to buy Nocturne?
May I have the key, please?
Oh, aye, you can hae the key. Most certainly. You can hae the key to Nocturne.
When people who are humourless suddenly start laughing, 5 gets you 10 that all is not well. This thought carried me downstairs and into the street. It was succeeded by another thought. Hansford had given me the key to Nocturne, but his laughter suggested there was another and different key that he kept in his head. I got back to my office and... chaos. Everything that could be smashed was smashed. Files had been pulled out and their contents carpeted the floor. My answering machine would never answer anyone again, and my telephone had been ripped out. It was clearly a case for Sergeant Dunsmore.
Another protest against the system?
How did I get on the mailing list?
I could make a rough guess.
Couldn't be any rougher than what's happened here.
Oh, it could, Peter.
Well, in that case, I'd like to hear your rough guess.
Small towns are funny places.
I wish I'd said that.
To begin with, they're boring. Nothing ever happens in them. They lack drama. So they have a habit of making it up out of any ingredients they may have.
I don't see myself anywhere in this yet.
Now don't switch over to a different channel.
Get on with it then.
Once upon a time, there was a poor but honest nurse. One day she met a handsome young man and fell madly in love with him. And in the fullness of time, discovered she was about to become a single parent.
I don't think I like this story.
In the meantime, the young man had met a rich and beautiful lady. That meant that as far as the young man was concerned, the poor but honest nurse was already into injury time. And one night, he drove out in his chariot and knocked her down.
Is that what they're saying?
Give or take a little.
Bastards.
Oh, agreed. But in the meantime, just remember what we used to shout at the film matinees when we were kids.
What was that?
Mind your back.
Once I saw an old movie at the local film society. I remember a killer was tracked down when a beggar chalked the letter M on his coat. I could imagine now the feelings of that hunted man. I could imagine the locals looking at me and seeing the invisible M on my coat, and for some it meant murderer, and for others, millionaire. I left the office to take care of itself and found my car and drove out of this censorious, sanctimonious, voyeuristic little town. I was dulling myself by doing so. And that therapy took me in the direction of Nocturne Cottage, and whatever might await me there.
In Episode 2 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Caiman was played by David Ashton. Isaiah Dunsmore was played by Gregor Fisher, Magda von Schellenberg by Vivienne Dixon, Old Hansford by Ian Stewart, Piggy Anderson and Donald McLeod by John Buick, Constable Archie Douglas and young Elphinstone by Robert Paterson. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner. Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 3. Peter Caiman, failed small-town lawyer, has lost his girlfriend Jenny, but has gained a mysterious new client called Magda von Schellenberg, who has given him £1 million, with instructions to set up a temple of peace at a place called Nocturne Cottage. Meanwhile, no one knows why Nurse Nicolson has been killed, or why the staff at a local private hospital are lying about a patient called Tim Layton. Nor does Calman know why his office has been completely wrecked, or why his rival Hansford has offered him a partnership. So, labelled by some a millionaire and by others a murderer, Calman has decided to take a look at Nocturne Cottage.
They say that dogs grow to look like their owners, so why should not houses take on the characteristics of those who once inhabited them? Nocturne Cottage had once long ago been a primary school, and a certain innocence seemed to have shaped it. In the chill evening autumnal light, it had the quality of a child's drawing, a white rectangle with windows. And yet there was an air of peace about the place, a kind of gentleness. The old Bourbon roses that clung to the wall had a fresh, clean perfume, and no thorns. At the side of the cottage a rowan tree grew, its red berries a warning to witches. Inside, the cottage was spotless, almost pathologically clean and tidy. Its neatness betrayed more than a housewifely pride which allows the occasional imperfection. No spider had been allowed to lurk in even the highest corner. There was none of that dank chill that seems to take over unoccupied cottages almost as a right. This place had been fired regularly, and recently. It evoked a kind of stand-by-your-bed discipline which made the little model aircraft on the mantelpiece seem not incongruous. It was a model of a Junkers 88, and it seemed more appropriate in the room than the garish red telephone on the windowsill. I picked up the receiver and was surprised by the dialing tone, and that made me dial a number.
Simon Hansford speaking.
I thought I might catch you before you left the office.
Well, you're lucky, whoever you are.
It's Peter Caiman.
Why? What's in your mind, Peter?
I'm sorry I upset you.
And I'm sorry I was a bit short with you.
I forgot you'd no sense of humour.
Well, just bear that in mind for do on, and you and me will get on just fine.
I'm calling from Noctur, Mr. Hansford.
Is this another of your jokes, Peter?
Oh, no joke, I assure you.
Peter, there shouldn't be a phone there.
Well, I promise you there is. Mr. Hansford, when was Noctur last occupied?
Let me see now. About 15 years back.
Is there something odd about the place?
It would appear that there might be.
I mean things that you would know about.
There might be things I ken about that I'm not prepared to talk about.
Not even to your new partner?
Oh, of course, if you decided to throw in with me.
I have.
You made a wise move.
Now, about Noctur,
Come and see
Mr.
me in the morning and we'll draw up some sort of agreement. Then maybe I'll tell you the sad history of Noctur.
I hung up the phone that wasn't supposed to be there, and it was then I became aware of the man who had been standing there watching me. He had arrived with the dusk, and seemed to be a part of it. I could make out that he was tall, but nothing much more.
What are you doing here?
First things first. Who are you?
I look after this place.
Oh. Does anyone else know that?
Bitte?
Who pays you?
There is no question of payment.
You do it for love, no doubt.
You find that reprehensible.
No, merely incredible.
May I ask you once more what you are doing here?
I am here on behalf of a client who is interested in this cottage.
Interested in what way?
Interested in buying it.
You have been here before?
Never.
Then it was not you who...
You were saying?
Oh, nothing.
If you don't mind, I'll have a look at the rest of the house.
Please do.
He watched as I moved into the other room. There was about him something patriarchal. He was in his mid-60s, bearded, straight as a spear. He had the kind of profile you see on ancient coins, but the main impression you were left with was of that immense dignity. The room I went into had originally been 2 small rooms, and now it was one largish and very feminine bedroom. Your first thought was that the inspiration behind it was an old 40s movie, and then you realized with a shock that the room was the genuine article, and that the whole house was a kind of museum, and that the patriarch in the next room was a kind of self-appointed curator.
Have you seen enough?
Strange place, isn't it?
In what way?
It's trapped.
I do not understand.
It's as though one day in the 1940s time suddenly gave a lurch and bypassed this house and everything in it.
Then you will not be recommending it to your client.
My client has already decided, sight unseen.
That is very foolish.
What right have you to say that my
There
client...
are more rights than there is written down in law books.
A very dangerous doctrine.
All doctrines are dangerous.
Look, are you trying to tell me who should or should not be allowed to buy this cottage?
I'm saying something quite different. I'm saying that rather than see this cottage sold to the wrong kind of person...
Yes?
I would be prepared to burn it to the ground.
He left as quickly and quietly as he had arrived. Nor did I stay much longer, only pausing as I locked up to wonder why the little model aircraft, The Junkers 88 that had been in the mantelpiece was no longer there. Outside, a full, fat moon dappled the silver landscape with hard-edged shadows. The moonlight made the fields seem under snow, transformed the roads into ribbons of white sand. I had a wild vision of a patriarch in long robes and sandals striding along and holding aloft in front of him a tiny model of a Junkers 88. But no patriarch appeared to disturb that moonlit journey home. Only two people, the same number of miles from town. A man and a woman jogging.
Is that you, Calman?
Yes. Who's your running mate?
She says her name's Jenny.
Hello, Peter.
You weren't looking for me by any chance?
As soon as I heard the news flash, I thought, better find Sergeant Dunsmore.
What news flash?
Starting midnight tonight, jogging's been banned.
Oh, aye. Where do you get your advance information from?
Oh, he's got a girlfriend who works for Breakfast TV. She makes the tea and reads the tea leaves.
And how long's this ban liable to last?
Only till the government dreams up a way of taxing it.
I shall start a protest movement. I'll bring every jogger in the country out onto the streets.
Those are there already.
Well, now that I've broken the news, do you want to make the most of the time remaining, or do you want a lift?
We want a lift.
You know any patriarchs, Isaiah?
Why do people keep asking me that?
Maybe because your first name's Isaiah.
Do people ask you, Peter, if you know any disciples?
As many as ask Jenny if she knows any wrens.
Stick to patriarchs.
I went up to Nocturne tonight.
What for?
I was acting on behalf of a client.
Oh, I didn't think rich people had to do things like that.
I'm newly rich, haven't learned the rules yet.
I suggest that the last two remarks be deleted from the minutes. Agreed?
Remarks quite uncalled for.
That could be argued.
Only on the grounds of sheer bitchiness.
Stop the car.
Well, what will you do if I don't call a policeman?
Do as she says, Peter.
Willingly. Sorry about that.
Oh, say no more.
I hate rowing in public.
You get used to it.
I don't think so.
Oh, take my word for it. My father and mother used to have real fights. People used to queue up, buy tickets for those battles. How well would you say you knew Jenny?
Until recently, I would have said I knew her as well as any man can know any woman.
You never found her devious?
Quite the reverse. An odd question, if I may say so, Isaiah.
Story of my life.
Now, who's being devious?
No, not devious. Evasive.
And what are you evading?
Disloyal thought. I was wondering if Jenny deliberately provoked that row to stop us discussing that patriarch of yours.
Do you know anything to his detriment, as they say?
No, no thing. German. He's got a small holding a half a mile from Nocturne, lives alone, bothers nobody. Seems to need nobody. A loner.
Pays his taxes, keeps his nose clean.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing.
Well, what would Jenny's connection be with him, I wonder?
Another lame duck to add to her aviary, maybe?
Could be as easy as that. Does it matter?
In a way.
What makes it important?
Well, I've asked Jenny to marry me.
Many long years ago, I saw in a little flea pit cinema a film called Pinocchio. There was a moment in it when a plump, kindly, benevolent coachman suddenly turns into a threatening, sinister monster. I sat there, unable temporarily to breathe, betrayed, my innocence fractured, never to be repaired. Now I seem to relive that dire experience. The sudden chill, the caught breath, the sheer incredulity. I drove the rest of the way in a silence that was far from companionable. It was still early when I dropped Isaiah at his digs, but too late for the light still shining from my office window, and suggesting uninvited company.
It's only me, Mr. Calman.
Oh, what brings you here, Mary?
I thought you weren't going to work for me anymore.
Oh, I can't keep away from the old place.
Oh, you've been away for 24 hours, not 24 years.
Ah, well, when I heard what had happened, I thought I'd take a turn round and see if I could help you clear it up.
Well, you've done wonders, Mary. It's enough to encourage the vandals to come back.
Oh, heaven forbid. I see you've got a new electric kettle.
Ah, it's just the same old kettle repaired.
Oh, so it is.
You'll have heard of my windfall.
It's the talk of the town.
If you cared to change your mind about coming back.
Now, dinna tempt me, Mr. Calman.
Be more money.
My mind's made up.
Well, here's something nobody else knows. I am going into partnership with old Hansford.
You've no half heard the news, then?
What news?
Old Hansford's had a massive heart attack just after they got home the night. Old Hansford's dead.
It was all happening too fast. Too many things were clamouring for attention, shading off into one another, throwing false shadows. So I ended up thinking of old dead Hansford and his Scottish canniness, and his sly lechery and his practical common sense, which was really disguised timidity. I tried to imagine him young, but failed. He'd not been born at all, but dropped fully fledged from a novel by John Galt. I went home and slept as soundly, if not as permanently, as old Hansford, and woke to the kind of morning that gives autumn a good name. 2 coffees and 3 cigarettes later, the telephone rang.
This is Jenny. Peter?
Yes?
Have you heard the news?
Television, radio, newspaper or grapevine?
About old man Hansford.
I heard about it last night.
I was meant to have an appointment with him this morning.
Oh, you'll have to find another lawyer then.
Are you volunteering?
No.
You're the only lawyer in town now.
I know, it's made me drunk with power.
You haven't asked what the appointment was about.
It doesn't concern me.
That's rather become your slogan, hasn't it?
I don't think so.
If you really mean that, you have an appointment at 11 a.m.
With you?
With Isaiah Dunsmore.
Prompt to the second, he appeared in my office, not looking at all like the first of the major Hebrew prophets. He was in uniform, as though he needed more authority than was vested in his biblical name.
I'm not so sure this is a good idea.
All I know is that I'm required to deputise for the late lamented Hansford.
Does that bother you?
Well, why should it, if she wants to rub it in that I'm second
You're
best?
being hypersensitive.
Well, maybe that's better than having no sensitivity at all.
Just let's stick to the matter in hand.
Gladly. Will someone please give me an inkling of what it is?
We're going to descend on the Spencer Whatsit Hospital.
I've already been there.
Aye, I heard about that. This time it's going to be different.
Bonnie Galloway, the song says, and that morning the adjective was an understatement. The sky was an unequivocal blue, and the purple heather glowed with its special autumnal fire. The trees were a carnival of reds, orange, brown and yellow. In autumn, every tree is a Sir Philip Sidney that has learned to greet death with style. Dunsmore had hardly spoken since he got into the car. He seemed deep in thought, and when I spoke to him, he seemed to have to drag himself out of some private, protected world.
Sorry, what did you say? I was miles away.
I was wondering why Jenny went to old Hansford.
I think she felt he carried more clout than you do.
In other words, I'm a lousy lawyer.
Her words exactly.
Is that your opinion too?
Yes.
Well, now we know. The last time I came here, Jenny and I didn't exactly cover ourselves in glory.
Jenny lost her cool, I gather.
Yes. I should have been able to control her.
Famous last words. The real trouble was you didn't have enough ammunition.
That's just as well. Jenny might have shot the receptionist. What secret weapon do we have this time?
A car with a damaged headlight.
You think it might be the car that killed Morag Nicolson?
No harm in asking, always do.
It belonged to anyone we know.
It belongs to the motor pool at the hospital.
Well, at least that lets me out.
You were never really in, Peter.
Hmm?
First thing I did was to check your car.
You'll go a long way, my friend.
No, as a policeman, I hope.
You have your sights on higher things.
University?
Then what?
I think this town could do with a good radical lawyer.
Jenny was waiting at the gates of the hospital. She got into the car and we moved up the long avenue. And I was suddenly assailed by a sense of unreality. It was as though I had been looking at a painting, a landscape of an earlier and more spacious age, and had somehow found myself on the wrong side of the frame. The same receptionist gave us the same superior look from behind the same desk.
I'm a police officer.
I can see that.
Oh, she's got 20/20 vision.
I'd have guessed contact lenses.
Well, you'd have guessed wrong.
Ah, the story of your
Miss
life.
Oliver?
Oh, you astonish me.
I think the lady can do without all this unnecessary needling.
The lady couldn't agree more.
I only wanted to ask whether...
The world is filled with people who will not take no for an answer.
How would you know? You've never said no in your life.
Miss Oliver, I must insist that you keep quiet or else wait outside. Now, if you don't mind answering a few questions.
I've already told this young lady that the man she's looking for is not and never has been here.
Who said anything about a man?
She's got some bee in her bonnet about it. A man called Tim Layton.
Well, it's an interest the police don't share.
Oh, sorry.
I would like to talk to someone about Morag Nicolson.
What about her?
We think we may have found the car that killed her.
Oh, God, no!
The transition from poise to panic, from sophisticated lady to scared woman, was almost ludicrous, except that something hung in the air that said this was no laughing matter. We stood beside the abandoned desk, but the receptionist failed to reappear. Instead, we were confronted by a smooth young man with an air of phony benevolence and a south of France tan. That probably came from a sun lamp.
I'm Dr. Webber. I believe you have a problem.
There does seem to be a problem, but whose problem it is exactly is something we might profitably discuss.
The waiting room is less public.
Can we go into the one with the David Hockney prints?
Yes. Are you an admirer of David Hockney?
I can take him or leave him.
Incidentally, these are not prints. They are all originals.
I should have known.
Can I interest anyone in coffee?
No. No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Right. Shall we get down to cases?
Which case would you like first?
Oh, dear me. Is there more than one?
There's two, actually. But they might well be connected.
I see. Do I know you from somewhere, young lady?
I'm Jenny Oliver.
Ah, yes.
May I ask how you happen to know Miss Oliver?
Know of her, sir. By the way, I didn't catch your name.
Calman, Peter Caiman. I'm a lawyer.
A lawyer and a policeman. You come quite formidably buttressed by the law, Miss Oliver.
You still haven't answered the question.
The answer is quite simple, Sergeant. This hospital is not an ivory tower. We subscribe to the local newspapers. Indeed, we consider it of the utmost importance to keep in touch with local opinion.
Really?
Really. At one time, you seemed to be writing in the Gazette every week.
Yes, that was our campaign against the dumping of nuclear waste.
May I congratulate you on its successful outcome?
I feel sick.
Well, you're in the right place for it.
Sick, sick, sick.
Is there anything wrong?
Yes, you are. Standing there with your out-of-season tan and your 300 guinea suit and talking all that patronising rubbish. What kind of an idiot do you think I am?
Would you accept a snap diagnosis?
Oh, come off it. What have you done with him?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
She's talking about a man called Tim Layton, who we think is being held here against his will.
Suppose, for the sake of argument, he was here.
He is here.
Now, what responsibility do you have towards this man?
Oh, he's a friend.
And if I told you he was dangerously ill?
I wouldn't believe you.
Unfortunately, I can't prove it.
Oh, come on, you'll have to do better than that.
I'm open to constructive suggestions.
You could let us see him.
I can't do that.
Why not?
He isn't here anymore.
Where is he, then?
I haven't the faintest idea. You see, he absconded from the hospital the night Nurse Nicolson died.
In Episode 3 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Caiman was played by David Ashton. Isaiah Dunsmore was played by Gregor Fisher, Jenny by Stella Forge, Old Hansford by Ian Stewart, Shawl by Brown Darby, Dr. Webber by Sandy Nielsen, Mary Matheson by Doreen Cameron, and the hospital receptionist by Tamara Kennedy. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner. Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 4. Peter Caiman, a small-town lawyer in Galloway, has discovered that a cottage he is buying on behalf of a mysterious client is already occupied by an elderly German gentleman and a model of a Junkers 88 bomber. He has also discovered that his girlfriend Jenny is seeing a lot of Police Sergeant Isaiah Dunsmore. But Calman has not yet discovered who killed Nurse Nicolson, nor why an old hermit should have absconded from a very exclusive private hospital on the night Nurse Nicolson died, nor, for that matter, what the hermit was doing in that hospital in the first place.
Dead Men Tell No Tales is, you must agree, a sexist statement. Any feminist worth her liberated salt will be quick to point out that, like Nurse Nicolson, dead women are equally taciturn. Dr. Webber stared at the trendy paintings on the wall. He was pleased with them, with himself, with the richness of his chosen world. Dr. Webber was a 4-letter word. S-M-U-G. Isaiah Dunsmore obviously thought so too.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Webber.
Of course, Sergeant Dunsmore.
Are you saying that Tim Leighton killed Nurse Nicolson?
I'm advancing it as a possibility.
On what basis?
Well, on the basis that Leighton left this hospital on the night Nurse Nicolson died. On the basis of the known facts.
Whose facts?
Aren't the facts the same for everybody?
Yes, like private medicine.
Talking to you, Miss Oliver, is like facing a hostile political meeting.
She has a point, though.
One can only hope it's very painful.
The point being, what was a penniless old hermit like Tim Leighton doing in a place like this?
Well, I'm afraid we don't hand out that kind of information about patients.
Even when they murder nurses?
I decline to answer any further questions.
Unfortunately, that's not going to stop the questions being asked.
Then, Sergeant, someone else must answer them.
There is a certain legal poetry, if you look for it hard enough. Take the phrase, mute of malice. Dr. Webber had certainly gone mute, and his malice, especially towards Jenny, was embarrassingly obvious. In older, less complicated days, both his muteness and his malice would have been cured by pressing him under heavy leaden weights. Being pressed to plead in those days was rather different from being pressed to another fairy cake or cucumber sandwich. Driving away from the Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital, Jenny was in confessional mood.
I conned you.
Me or Isaiah?
You, Peter.
I conned you too.
With friends like you, who needs Dr. Webber? The only difference between you and the receptionist back there is that she has a better hairdresser.
Oh, come on, Peter.
Old Hansford never did feature in this little scenario, did he?
No.
No. Do you think I was too dim to work that out for myself?
We thought
that the mere presence of a lawyer would put the frighteners in a lot of innocent doctors.
Not exactly.
Yes, exactly. You knew that Hansford was slightly to the right of Ronald Reagan.
All right.
We needed a lawyer.
You need a caper, both of you. Places like the Spencer Watson aren't afraid of lawyers. They employ armies of lawyers, all with briefcases stuffed with loopholes.
The element of surprise...
Works fine in the movies.
Your vanity's been hurt.
No, Jenny. My intelligence has been insulted. Once we had been friends, briefly lovers. Now we were becoming something else. Something that was perhaps in grave danger of becoming nothing. Something that gave me an impending sense of loss. And that afternoon I sat in my office, not thinking of anything in particular, and someone knocked timidly on my door. It was my patriarch from Noctur Cottage.
I am interrupting?
Oh, no, not at all. Come in, Mr.
Shaw, Gunther Shaw.
Now, let's have some light on the subject. Yeah, that's better.
There was a picture on that wall last time I was here. I admired it very much.
Yes, a picture of gypsies. My uncle always maintained it was by Sir David Wilkie.
That would make it valuable, yes?
Very.
I liked it because it was about people.
So did he.
Nowadays artists are only painting the insides of their heads.
Yes, or somebody else's.
I have come to apologize.
For what?
I have been saying stupid things.
Well, as long as you've only been saying them to me.
You see, Noctur Cottage has become so much a part of my life.
I understand.
And you will also understand that when you and the other man came to the cottage...
The other man?
The fat man.
Tell me about him.
He changed the books.
He what?
The books are different now at the cottage.
No, you're not making sense.
It must not happen again.
Don't get excited.
How can you take Magda's money? How can you promise her a temple of peace if you let it happen again?
He took his cryptic and dire forebodings away with him and left me to my own. The rich are different, not only because they have more money, but also because, having more money, they can turn their fantasies into realities. Magda von Schellenberg was rich, and she had a fantasy. She would build a temple of peace at Noctur Cottage, and overnight the world would trade in its missiles for ploughshares. Much to my surprise, she had handed me £1 million and entrusted me with this laudable undertaking. But it occurred to me, was there any point in creating a temple of peace in a world inhabited by paranoics? Then it occurred to me that such a world was just the place for a temple of peace, and that anyone setting up such an institution was going to have to earn his money. I think that was when I decided to earn mine. That meant clearing a lot of old ground, which might seem an ungallant way to describe Jenny.
Why have you brought me here?
To see how the other half lives.
This is living?
Well, I would have taken you to the London Hilton, but apparently you're bound there.
So you settled for the Crockett Arms?
Right.
Big deal.
I thought it was time you and I had a talk.
About what?
You and me and Isaiah Dunsmore.
Is this going to be embarrassing?
I didn't know that word was in your vocabulary.
Buying me lunch doesn't buy you the right to insult.
Aha, you do not have a monopoly of insulting people.
Well, you're still on about that, are you?
Yes, I am.
Peter, I'm going to marry Isaiah.
You told me.
Could it be that you're jealous?
Oh, get that out of your head. I wouldn't marry you for practice.
Thank you very much.
I gather you've got big plans for him.
No, the decision to go to university is entirely his.
And his ambition to be a radical lawyer?
You're frightened of the competition?
No, I just happen to think there's more to being radical than shouting at doctors and receptionists.
Oh, for God's sake, Peter. What do you know about being radical? When did you ever take a stand about anything? When have you even put yourself at risk?
You're one of the elect, aren't you, Jenny? God has promised you salvation, and the rest of us can go to hell. You told Dunsmore I was a lousy lawyer.
Which you are.
Did you ever pause to wonder why?
Your uncle set it up for you. Everything came to you too easily.
Possibly, but it is also possible that I loathed and despised my profession, that I saw little or no connection between law and justice.
Then, Peter, why the hell don't you do something about it?
When in doubt, my uncle used to say, go back to the beginning. But where was the beginning, and what was the beginning? Or better still, who was the beginning? Was it a dead nurse shattered on a country road? Or a cranky old hermit who lived in loneliness and laver bread? I spun a coin, and the laver bread won. And, obedient to the laws of chance, I drove down to a little pub near Dungrennan Bay, which was run by a notorious poacher named Sandy Brill.
Peter Caiman.
You're looking well, Sandy.
Can't complain, Peter, can't complain. So what brings you doing this here?
Tim Layton.
Are you representing him, Peter?
I might be.
I hope you've better luck with him than you had with me.
Oh, you got off lightly, Sandy. Time was they sent you to Botany Bay for poaching.
Aye. They only stopped that because the poachers come back and beat the bejesus out of them at cricket.
Do you know Tim Layton?
Well, I don't think anybody actually knows Tim. You just accept him.
Part of the landscape?
Literally. Living in a cave.
Does he strike you as being mentally stable?
Well, Tim's got all his wits about him. Except maybe...
Except maybe what?
Well, I was going to say diet-wise. He lives in some concoction he makes out of seaweed.
Oh, laver bread.
Puts me in mind of frog spawn.
Why did you ask me if I was representing him, Sandy?
Oh, did he rightly care?
Lawyers only represent people who need lawyers.
Oh, who cares that better than me?
So what makes you think Tim Layton's in trouble?
The locals here will say anything.
What are they saying?
They're saying Tim's a spy.
A spy in a cave?
You ever seen his cave, Peter?
No. Is there something special about it?
It looks right across the water at the atomic power complex.
I have never been, as they say, into caves. Thousands of years ago, my ancestors rejected caves, and the way I see it, they couldn't all have been wrong. Yet this particular cave, I felt I had to see. Dungrennan Bay had been a place of my childhood, a place of magic that had probably never been and certainly would never be again, a place of swift, dangerous Solway tides, of sunburn, of homemade kites whose tails were made of long, tough, wandering roots of marram grass, torn from their subterranean dark to dance like a wind-borne star. A meandering path will bring you to the beach to the east of the cave. You know you are nearly there when you come to the remains of a stile. And that was as far as I got.
Sorry, chump.
What are you sorry for?
You, if you give us any aggravation.
Shut up, Cedric.
What is this?
The beach is closed.
Why?
I'm sorry, chump.
What's it to you, anyway?
Oh, I keep hoping that some tattered shreds of democracy still survive in this country.
You're a commie or something.
I'm a lawyer.
Who do you represent, then, eh? Bleeding seagulls?
Shut up, Cedric. I'm sorry, sir. Our instructions is that nobody don't go on the beach.
I can see 4 or 5 people on the beach from here. What makes them so privileged?
They got permission from the fat man, that's what.
And where do I find this fat man?
You don't.
It's a fairly one-sided arrangement, isn't it?
It breaks even.
You reckon?
Yeah. See, the way it works is this. If the fat man wants to find you, he will.
Some people carry a gene for mathematics. Some carry a gene for painting and music. Some people carry a gene for nothing. Maybe it all does break even, like the fat man's unilateral arrangement. Pray that it does. Or else just pray. I carried the flea in my ear back to Sandy Brill.
I know nothing on Thames Gate.
No, it was early closing day.
What does that mean?
The beach has apparently been closed to the public.
You're joking.
Have you any medicine for a dirty taste in the mouth?
I will. I have this 25-year-old malt.
Yeah, one for you and one for me.
Yeah, why not?
Have you completely abandoned the old trade, Sandy?
Officially, aye. But, between ourselves, no. Slag.
Thanks. Good health.
Did you have anything in mind? I mean, lurking a hint, that question.
I'd like to see into that cave.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Peter, if you've seen the inn caves, you've seen them all.
Well, there's no bully boys going to keep me off that beach.
Was that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to enlist my well-known poaching skills to make him look stupid?
There's more to it than that.
Like what?
You'd be striking a blow for democracy.
You're on.
Good. What time do you suggest we meet?
There's a full moon the night. What do you say to midnight?
Midnight it is.
Oh, there's one thing I should mention, Peter.
What's that?
Nobody ever got very far in Scotland striking blows for democracy.
One good warning deserves another.
I'm listening.
I saw men on the beach.
What kind of men?
Men with Geiger counters, Sandy. Driving back to the office, the reaction set in. I was not assailed by qualms about what I was doing, but doubts began to creep in as to my motive for doing it. I remembered a cautionary tale from a long-ago schoolbook. It concerned a snooty medieval lady who was sitting above a lion pit, as medieval ladies apparently were wont to do. Anyway, there she was, row G, seat 17, when she spotted across the way a knight she had always fancied, and who was, she thought, eyeing her lasciviously. Whereupon she peeled off her glove and threw it down among the snarling lions, whereupon the knight jumped down among the lions, retrieved the glove, and gave it back to the lady. Across the face. Was I trying to do the same kind of thing to Jenny? Was I simply reacting to a sexual challenge? I still hadn't decided yea or nay, when I found myself not at the office, but at Noctur Cottage.
I am pleased to see you, Herr Calman.
To tell you the truth, I don't really know what I'm doing here.
Explain, please.
I was thinking about something else, something entirely different, when suddenly I found myself on the road here.
Perhaps the something else was not entirely different after all.
Perhaps.
You must learn to trust your subconscious.
May I ask you something, Mr. Shaw?
Please do.
That model aircraft on the mantelpiece.
It is a Junkers 88.
Has it any special significance for you?
It is there to remind me of a debt I can never repay.
The Junkers 88 was a bomber, wasn't it?
It is so.
I just can't see you looking down a bomb site.
Anyone can look down a bomb site.
Come to think of it, is there any place in a Temple of Peace for a model of a bomber aircraft?
For this one, yes. Now you know what your subconscious was trying to tell you.
Oh, maybe it could do with a little bit of assistance.
That is a model of the aircraft in which I came to this country.
A German bomber?
Yes.
When was this?
On March 14, 1941.
You're very precise.
Many people will have that date burned into their memories.
Why?
It was the second night of the Clydebank Blitz, and the night we were shot down.
Tell me.
I would like to talk about something different.
Such as?
Anything?
All right. You mentioned something about books.
Ah, yes. That is very strange.
In one corner there stood a high old bookcase jammed with books. Some of them were in German. A very few, were paperbacks, ancient penguins of the type that nowadays sell in second-hand bookshops for 20 times the price they fetched when in mint condition. Yet the most interesting thing about them was what their titles suggested. Das Kapital, which I thought nobody ever read. The collected works of Ulyanov, whose stage name was Lenin. Rosa Luxemburg's Junius pamphlet. Studies in a Dying Culture by Christopher Codwell, who died behind a machine gun in Spain. And more, and more, and more. And on the flyleaf, the name James Calman. My uncle.
Well?
You learn something new every day.
And what do these books tell you?
That my late uncle appears to have been some kind of left-wing intellectual.
Was he?
My uncle's favourite reading was Ruff's Guide to the Turf.
Someone is trying to create for him a new persona.
Why would anyone want to do that?
Because that someone is after me.
The moon was riding high when I left Noctur. It was full, as Sandy Brill had said it would be. Full and sinister, hypocritical, seeming to flood everything with light, while at the same time making everything appear to be slightly off-centre. At the police station, Sergeant Isaiah Dunsmore was gazing gloomily at a geranium, which was in an advanced state of collapse.
Yeah, I think it's had it.
Shame on you.
It's no me, it's Archie Douglas. He's always overwatering the plants.
It's the only way Scotsmen can show affection. Ply the love object with drink.
Yeah. What brings you here, anyway?
I've come to take you poaching.
What's Sandy Brill going to say when you turn up with a copper?
He once told me that the best night's poaching he ever had was with a couple of judges from the Court of Session.
Well, it's a glorious night.
Aye.
Not bright for poaching, I would have thought.
That depends on what you're after.
And what are you after?
Information.
Right on time. I like that.
I brought along a friend, Sandy.
How are you, Isaiah?
Nervous.
Good thing to be when you're poaching.
So, what's the drill?
Well, I think the tactic might be to divide and conquer.
So who's to divide and who's to conquer?
A good question. And here's the answer, short as I can make it. You ken the Tinker's Path?
I do.
Well, what it comes out is a matter of 50 years for this cave that Peter's got a bee in his bonnet about.
Do I go with Isaiah or do I come with you?
You'll go with Isaiah. I'm for the other direction.
What will you be doing?
Oh, I'll think of something.
Will it be violent?
If the situation warrants it, then it'll be violent.
In Episode 4 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Caiman was played by David Ashton. Isaiah Dunsmore was played by Gregor Fisher, Jenny by Stella Forge, Dr. Webber by Sandy Nielsen, Shaw by Brown Darby, and Sandy Brill by Finlay Welsh. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner. Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 5, Peter Caiman has established a connection between the death of Nurse Nicolson and the disappearance of Tim Leighton. Leighton, an old hermit, lived in a cave at Dungrennan Bay, a lonely beach now patrolled by strange guards. Calman and his friend Police Sergeant Isaiah Dunsmore, helped by Sandy Brill, a local poacher, have decided to investigate.
In Kirkcudbright graveyard, there is a headstone marking the resting place of William Marshall, who died at the advanced age of 121. Billy Marshall was a tinker, and perhaps his feet had helped to tread the tinker's path we laboured up now. He may even have been the eponymous tinker. The path to the beach was rocky, slippery, designed by mountain goats for mountain goats.
You think this path's Sandy Brill's idea, Jock?
I'll tell you this for free. Oh, I've got a new respect for tinkers.
I've passed the worst of it now.
I'm beginning to remember this place now.
Ah, I thought you would.
Used to be a great place for blueberries.
It still is.
At the top of this stretch, there's a sort of flat pit, right? Then there are 39 steps down to the beach.
I think you're in the wrong story.
It was just talk, a kind of coded courage, a charm against whatever lay ahead, an attempt to diminish it, and perhaps to diminish our part in it with bad jokes. So we reached the top of the hill, and looked down on the firth, smooth, silver, treacherous. And the bay swung round suddenly like a left hook, and you could see the atomic power complex, all lit up, dramatic, theatrical, a temple of technology, or possibly a cenotaph.
Impressive, eh?
If you like that kind of thing.
Does that mean you don't?
I can live without it.
The perfect anti-nuclear slogan.
So, what do we do now? Charge downhill shouting Geronimo?
We'll wait for some kind of signal for Sandy.
Did you know this beach was being closed?
No, I didn't.
I find that a bit odd.
Well, there's your signal, Peter.
Eh?
He set the bloody beach on fire.
It was a pardonable exaggeration. Sandy had set alight the dried whin bushes in the marram grass, and the flames rose crackling into the night sky, defining the far end of the bay, and the sands were suddenly filled with running men.
Spectacular, isn't it?
Short-lived too.
Right, come on then.
What goes up must come down, and, as a general rule, faster. It took us as many seconds to descend as it had taken minutes to struggle upwards, and then we were on the beach, and heading towards Tim Leighton's cave, which looked like a black eye patch against the illuminated face of the cliff. We dived into its darkness, and into the sudden dazzling beam of a torch. Behind the torch was a man, and the man had a gun. To say he was fat is like saying Mount Everest is high. Mirabeau might have been nearer the mark when he said of an acquaintance that God had created him only to show how far the human skin could stretch without bursting.
I'm afraid Mr. Leighton is not at home.
I'm afraid we already knew that.
Oh, yes. What are you doing here, Sergeant?
I'm trying to believe my eyes.
That'll be quite enough.
Look, who the hell do you think you are?
I know very well who I am. And so should you, Calman.
Why?
Because the last time we met, I broke your back.
They still remember it as Calman's match, and the story has been told ad nauseum of the young Scottish fly-half playing out of his skin, 4 tries in 30 minutes, and the maddened, humiliated English number 10 who finally laid him low with an illegal tackle and kicked him as he lay injured on the ground. That was Calman's match, and from a reverse, perverse angle, it could be seen as Bullivant's match as well.
No hard feelings, old boy.
Bullivant? I don't believe it.
It was no picnic for me either.
Oh, don't think I don't realise that. I never believe I didn't appreciate it. 2 years in a wheelchair, not knowing if I was ever going to walk again. And the only thing that kept me from total despair was knowing that the sadist who put me in that wheelchair wasn't having a picnic either.
Do you know what it's like to be a pariah?
Peter's never earned the right to wear that badge.
I'll deal with you later, Sergeant.
Why wait till later?
You're suspended from duty.
By whose authority?
Mine.
And what makes you think you possess that kind of authority?
I am head of atomic security for this area.
And what rank does that carry?
Superintendent.
And does that give you the authority to close beaches?
I have very wide discretionary powers.
Well, perhaps it's time we found out how wide they are.
Exactly.
Tell Mr. Layton we're sorry we missed him.
Anything else?
Yes. You're carrying too much beef.
Good night, Superintendent.
We walked away from him and his gun and his 24 inelegant stones of blubber, not looking round in case, like Lot's wife, he might be changed into 336 pounds of rock salt. The men along the beach gave us weird looks that had in them something of respect. It was as though we had encountered some kind of sacred monster and survived. Sandy Brill was waiting up for us. He was wearing black and white striped pyjamas, which belonged in some old American movie set claustrophobically in Alcatraz or San Quentin, or some such further education centre.
I'm sorry to have to say it, but say it I will. Deep inside of me there's a fire raiser struggling to get out.
Huh. Oh, you did a grand job.
A piece of cake. How did you two get on?
We ran into the dragon that guards the cave.
Weighed 20 stone plus and not 1 ounce of it hanging properly.
And it carried a gun.
You get caught?
We got caught.
Any sign of Tim Layton?
No. No, the cave was totally empty.
That's odd.
I thought so too.
Do you mean there was nothing in the cave at all?
You wouldn't have known anybody had ever lived in it.
Well, it shouldn't have been empty.
So what should have been there?
Well, there should have been the old rickety bed that I gave him when he was clearing this place out. And then there was a couple of orange boxes that was washed ashore, and then there was a big black plastic bag.
And what did he keep with that? His life savings?
Seaweed, that's what he kept in it. The stuff he used to cook. That frog spawn he lived on.
I heard him lock the door behind us as we left and stepped into the moonlight, which seemed to have borrowed the black and white striping of his jailbreak pyjamas. We drove off along the coast road, and at one point we were looking down on the bay. The stretch of sand was covered with little black Lowry figures, all active and wise after the event.
That beach is contaminated.
Nothing else makes sense.
So why all this mystery then?
Are you going to be all right?
You mean about this suspension business?
I feel a bit responsible.
Oh, the
there.
chief constable will sort Bullivant out. He's as jealous as a robin when it comes to people intruding on his territory. Do you know what I found strange tonight?
What?
You not recognising Bullivant.
Yeah? You must have put on about 10 stone.
It's a whole new concept, isn't it? Fat as a disguise.
I dropped Dunsmore at his place of work, where Constable Archie Douglas was doubtless still waging his watery war of attrition against helpless pot plants. Someday, I thought, Isaiah was going to buy an enormous Venus flytrap and train it to savage Archie Douglas every time he reached for a watering can. Then I made my way home to find I had a Venus flytrap of my very own, the receptionist from the Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital.
I let myself in.
Oh, be my guest.
I hope you're not angry with me.
I can't answer that until after I've counted the spoons.
Oh, you don't think that I'd...
No. I was joking.
You can search me if you like.
I don't think my hardened arteries could stand it.
Are you gay?
No. Manic depressive.
Oh, you're sending me up.
Wouldn't dream of it. How did you get in here?
Oh, there's a little window at the back of the house. It was open.
That takes care of the how. Now comes the why.
I've got something to sell.
You were offering it for nothing a minute ago.
Oh, don't be snide.
Oh. Yes, you're right. That was uncalled for.
Oh, well spoken.
And now that we are sweethearts again, tell me what you've got to sell.
Information about the death of Nurse Nicolson.
Oh, you're asking me to be unethical. On the other hand, if I offered a reward for information regarding Nurse Nicholson's death, I would not be buying whatever knowledge you have. I would be simply rewarding your public spirit in coming forward with it.
And both our halos could stay nice and shiny.
Exactly. £100?
I've had my halo valued at 150.
But not by me.
All right, then. 100 it is.
You give in very easily.
Your girlfriend would say it's become a habit.
Jenny Oliver is not my girlfriend.
Oh, congratulations.
Tell me something.
Oh, anything that doesn't cost me money.
Why did you panic when you heard the car had been found?
Well, you see, I had signed the car out from the pool for that night.
Did anyone else see you sign it back in?
No.
What happened?
Dr. Webber got very drunk.
He was with you?
Yes, until he passed out. Then I drove him back to the hospital, and there was a dreary business of getting him smuggled upstairs to his quarters.
And then what?
Well, that took some time, as you can imagine. Then when I went to sign the car back in, it had gone.
Someone else had taken it?
Right.
And you've since found out who that someone was?
Right again.
And that is the information you have to sell?
To coin a phrase, yes.
We agreed to meet again, at opening time, which for her had nothing to do with pubs, but everything to do with banking hours. So I took her to the local hotel, left her to its tender mercies, and took the leer off the night clerk's face by walking out shortly afterwards, thus confusing his sordid imagination. Then home through the AM streets, awaiting their daylight fix of carbon monoxide, and so to bed. The morning brought mist and a fine rain, and an unexpected telephone call.
Come out of the closet, Calman.
And face the big, cruel, heterosexual world? Never.
You do realise you're addressing the great Walter Hansford, star of stage and screen.
And not above the odd bar mitzvah.
You're spoiling my image.
I presume you've come up to bury your old man?
How deliciously Freudian you make it sound.
Oh, you're a heartless old queen.
I am indeed. When are you coming to kiss the royal hand?
Lunchtime?
Your place or mine?
Oh, mine.
We'll go and all that first of the few rubbish. About burying the old man. You're invited.
Thank you.
Not at all. An extra spade is always welcome.
They never understood each other, which could perhaps stand as an epitaph for every father and son relationship. Old man Hansford was dour, pragmatic, devious and conservative, the last person ever likely to appreciate the wild anarchic poetry that fueled his son's wild actions and wild attitudes. The last person ever likely to admit that he, alone, was responsible for his son's homosexuality. The last person ever likely to forgive his son's refusal to grant him conditional immortality by carrying on the family name. The trouble with psychoanalysis is that while you're busy sorting out the past, the present keeps on happening.
No mistake, sir, I assure you.
Did you actually see her leave the hotel?
With my own eyes, sir.
Was she alone when she left?
No, she left with a man. A very fat man.
And he settled the bill?
Cash.
Did you get the impression that she was leaving of her own free will?
Well, put it this way, I didn't see any arms being twisted. Have I spoiled your day, Mr. Calman?
No, not really. Wasn't much of a day anyway. I made my way to the police station to see if Isaiah Dunsmore had survived the night. Archie Douglas seemed in command, but a new Archie, spruced up, pompous. Not any less stupid, merely stupid in a different way. His red face shone with all the pride of conscious worth, unexpectedly recognised.
Morning, Mr. Calman.
I thought you'd be off duty this morning, Archie.
Us policemen is never off duty.
Policeman's lot is not a happy one.
You've put it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Is the sergeant around?
Have you no heard?
Heard what?
He's been suspended.
Oh, yes, I knew that.
Aye, well, you've been a pal of the Chief Constable.
Chief Constable?
He phoned up this morning and told the sergeant he was suspended. What's he been up to, Mr. Calman?
I think he got in the way of a very fat man. The Chief Constable, I thought, had just signed the death warrant of a hapless geranium. The Chief Constable, I thought, was a time-serving, spineless balloon. The Chief Constable, I thought, was everything that was wrong with Scotland. I went to seek Isaiah Dunsmore, and found him in a coffee shop.
Over here, Peter.
How's it going?
It's gone.
I wouldn't say that.
I've already said it. In a lengthy, profane and abusive letter of resignation to the Chief Constable.
Put not your trust in princes.
Good, now you tell me.
Does Jenny know?
No.
I didn't know it until I sat down here, but I've come to offer you a job.
Oh?
Yes, I've been asked to set up a temple of peace.
I'm not very good with doubts.
I've got the money all right, there's no problem there. And the problem is the organisation.
And you want me involved?
I want you to run it.
And what about Jenny?
If you think you can handle her.
Could you explain that?
Well, you know Jenny, she'll want to set up a committee, then the committee will set up a steering committee, then she'll fall out with all the committee, and the whole project will die of sheer verbiage.
Anything else?
Aye. Every time a war breaks out, it comes off your bonus.
What if somebody presses that famous button?
You get fired with the rest of us.
Nice idea, a temple of peace. Any thoughts on what it should look like?
Only in a negative way.
Does your sponsor, Fräulein von Schellenberg, any views on the subject?
Oh, as far as I know. How did you know her name?
It's a small town, Peter.
I'm getting smaller by the minute.
What's going to happen to that weird old bugger at Noctua?
His name's Shaw.
I'm not sure his name is Shaw.
You've a reason for saying that, presumably?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
You remember that business a while back about the forged Hitler diaries?
Yeah.
Well, I was reading about it in one of the Sundays. And in this article, it gave the telephone number of the records office for the Luftwaffe in Berlin.
Don't tell me. You rang it.
I did. And I got right through to it.
Oh, so much for the taxpayers' money.
If you don't tell a soul, I'll show you how to rig your electricity meter.
It's a deal.
Anyway, I only rung on a daft impulse. And then I remembered hearing about a German aircraft being brought down hereabouts during the war.
A Junkers 88?
Yeah. So I asked about that.
Brilliant.
They gave me all the information, right down to the pilot's tattoo marks.
Uh-huh.
And there was nobody called Shaw on the crew of that aircraft.
Now, I wonder if Jenny could throw any light on this.
Well, she's meeting me here in 20 minutes. You can ask her yourself.
No. Must rush. I've got a date with a very old friend. Walter Hansford was sitting behind his late father's desk. He was sipping white wine from a thick white mug, and he looked the very picture of unconventional grief.
Ah, Pietro, cara mia.
Hello, Walter.
You wouldn't happen to have a wine glass, would you?
No, I left my wine glasses in my other suit.
Oh, what it is to be rich and have two suits. The mind boggles.
You've started early.
I'm only tasting it for my wine column in the Church of Scotland magazine.
That's blasphemy.
So, dear boy, is the wine. Prost.
Do you really feel nothing about your father?
Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing at all.
I'm never quite sure when you're being serious, Walter.
What a terribly wounding thing to say.
You see, I've got a theory about you.
Oh, just what I've always wanted.
Yes, you're one of those people who uses words to conceal and not communicate.
You couldn't be more wrong, Peter. My father was a furtive, vindictive, secretive, envious, slyly lecherous old git.
Did you know he offered to take me into partnership the day he died?
Then you had a narrow escape, dear boy.
So it would appear.
Did you know my father hated your uncle?
Why should he?
I have a fragrant childhood memory of lying awake one night in my little truckle bed, listening to the parents having a real swinging punch-up. I think that one ended with her crowning him with a vase of his prize chrysanthemums.
Speed it up, Walter.
I remember hearing your uncle's name being mentioned in the course of the fracas.
No, you're not suggesting that he was having
not in the least. My mother was a dear, dear lady, but she had a face like a failed rice pudding. I've often wondered where I get my looks from.
Estee Lauder, perhaps?
You are a bitch, Peter.
We were talking about my uncle, remember?
Ah, yes. There was a woman's name mentioned, but I can't recall it offhand. I have that kind of memory where women are concerned.
Well, if you do remember it.
Well, you'll be the first to know, dear heart. You'll be the first to know.
I left him sitting behind the desk with his Oedipus complex and his diminishing bottle of white wine. He would be a rich man now, and I wondered what he would do with his new wealth. I wished him luck, and then I thought he didn't really need it. Homosexuals like Walter have to be survivors. I stepped out into the high, bright day, and literally bumped into Archie Douglas.
I've been searching all over the town for you.
Why?
You're wanted down at the station.
I was going for a haircut.
Your hair can wait.
You're drunk with power, Archie.
I'm obeying orders.
From?
Superintendent Bullivant.
He was standing by the window. He seemed to fill the whole room, and he was watering that doomed geranium.
Ah, good day to you, Calman.
You and Archie Douglas are turning that plant into a dipsomaniac.
I thought we should have a little talk.
About what?
About security.
Why?
You seem to hold rather unorthodox views on the subject.
I agree with Harold Macmillan. Security is 60% rubbish.
Possibly. That still leaves 40% that isn't.
Look, I have things to do.
They will have to wait.
You carry things off with a very high hand, Superintendent.
It may seem so.
It damned well is so.
And let's make it quite clear. I am detaining you under the provisions of the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
In episode 5 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Caiman was played by David Ashton. Isaiah Dunsmore was played by Gregor Fisher, Superintendent Bullivant by Arthur Boland, Sandy Brill by Finlay Welsh, Walter Hansford by Ronald Aitken, Constable Archie Douglas by Robert Paterson, and the hospital receptionist by Tamara Kennedy. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner. Curlew in Autumn, a thriller serial for radio in 6 episodes by Edward Boyd, with David Ashton as Peter Caiman. Episode 6. Calman has discovered that a beach at Dungrennan Bay is contaminated, and that this might explain the disappearance of Tim Layton. Calman has been offered information about the death of Nurse Nicolson, and has also been arrested as a terrorist by Superintendent Bullivant. Bullivant is an officer in the security services. He also once played fly-half for England.
Major Peter Labelliere, Christian patriot and citizen of the world, his description, not mine, left instructions in his will that he was to be buried head downwards, because, he reckoned, the world was topsy-turvy. Looking at Superintendent Bullivant, it was possible to concede that Major Peter Labelliere may have had a point.
Have you anything to say?
What happened to the hospital receptionist?
I offered her more money than you did, plus a bonus.
Oh, free hairdos for the rest of her life?
No, nothing like that.
Was Dr. Webber easier to deal with?
Dr. Webber is no longer employed by the Spencer Watson Memorial Hospital.
Oh, neat. Very neat. So, Webber and his girlfriend are going to carry the can for the death of Nurse Nicolson.
He was very drunk. Doesn't remember a thing about it.
Oh, that makes it all right, of course. Practically death from natural causes.
The girl was driving.
Was she drunk too?
She had been drinking.
Oh, I don't know, Bullivant. I really don't. Coming from anybody else but you, I might almost believe it.
Because of something I once did to you on a rugby field.
Some things only have to happen once, and it doesn't matter whether they happen on a rugby field or a battlefield.
I've told you the truth.
But not the whole truth.
What more do you want to know?
What was Tim Layton doing in that she hospital?
Dying.
Of what?
Leukemia.
And where is he now?
Oh, God alone knows.
Beg your pardon, sir, the Chief Constable.
What the hell do you think you're doing here, Superintendent?
I'm only doing my job, sir.
Is it your job to disrupt the police force in this entire area? You've usurped my authority. Made me look an absolute fool.
I thought I'd explain the reasons for that.
Now look here, Bullivant. Hello, Peter. What are you doing here?
Being embarrassed.
Aye. I'm sorry, Peter. A little domestic discord.
Oh, no need to apologise. I was just going anyway. That right, Bullivant?
Right.
Better late than never. Dunsmore's resignation had given the Chief Constable furiously to think. He had not reached his present eminence without a strong sense of self-protection, and would not suffer gladly the increasing encroachment of Bullivant into his territory. But that would not, on that account, stop Bullivant from encroaching.
The man's mad.
Bullivant's a patriot.
So, what do we do?
Well, we could approach the Chief Constable, tell him about Tim Layton, and...
Watch him do nothing about it?
He was tearing into Bullivant when I left.
Oh, Peter, don't be so bloody naive. That was because his dignity was offended, because Bullivant hadn't given him his place by sending him the proper memos or reports in triplicate.
You really believe that?
More and more.
I seem to have heard all this before, Jenny.
Ah, but you never listen.
Perhaps you failed to put the point over.
You're not being honest, Peter. The truth is, whether you like it or not, you're one of them.
And Isaiah Dunsmore isn't.
I'm sorry you felt compelled to say that.
I wonder if Isaiah ever feels uneasy.
Oh, why should he?
I would if I had to put up with your constant intellectual slumming.
Say goodbye, Peter.
Gladly.
If anyone asks, I'm with Tim Layton.
You know where he is?
Yes, Peter, I do.
In my book of famous quotations, which was a school prize for perfect attendance or religious knowledge or needlework or something like that, there was an epigram by Marshall. I cannot live with thee, nor without you. He must have known somebody like Jenny. She went out, not quite slamming the door behind her, and I heard her laughing as she spoke to someone on the stairs. Then that someone walked into the office. He was wearing a quiet scarlet leather suit and a bright yellow scarf, with a design of something that looked like purple tadpoles.
Thought I'd drop in, dear boy.
You look like an action painting, Walter.
I've just had the most bizarre experience. Positively macabre.
Tell me about it.
I've just been round to McConaughey's, you know, the undertakers.
I keep out of his way ever since I heard he was short-sighted.
Do you or don't you want to hear about my ordeal?
Sorry.
Anyway, this soapy little creep, McConaughey, has the old man stashed away in a kind of garden shed he calls a chapel of rest. Do I want to see the deceased? He asks in his oily way. Well, you know me.
Oh, yes, anything for a laugh.
How painfully true. So, he leads the way, and there's the defunct parent lying there. And I'm thinking how much he looks like a Renaissance pope, when McConaughey absolutely freaks me.
He puts his hand up your skirt?
Worse, sweetie. He stared down at me old dad and uttered in sepulchral tones, "Beautiful, beautiful, just a teeny bit of corruption."
God almighty.
You will understand why I'm now on my way to the wine shop.
Only too well.
Oh, and while we're on the subject of mortality, I thought you might be interested in this old photograph I found in the old man's files.
My uncle smiled at me from the photograph, as though he found the whole thing faintly ridiculous. That was the way he'd always confronted the world, and the world took that smile at its face value, too preoccupied with getting and spending to notice the stoicism that lay behind that smile. It was the smile of Marcus Aurelius. The girl at his side produced in me a shock of recognition. She was wearing WAF uniform, and managed to give its ugly shapelessness a kind of distinction. There was something about her that made you feel cheated because you had not known her. Whom the gods love die young. Nobody mentions where this happens, which is in places like Noctur Cottage.
The roses were wonderful that last year of the war.
Who was she?
Her name was Anne.
Why all the secrecy?
One uses secrecy as a shield.
Does it say that in the Talmud?
I'm not ashamed of being Jewish.
No. Have you any reason to be? Or have you?
What are you suggesting?
What were you doing in the Luftwaffe?
I have never been in the Luftwaffe.
But you mentioned being shot down.
I was what is the word? A stowaway.
Oh, come on, Scholl.
My name is not Scholl.
Who are you then?
I am Jakob Fallstein.
That bomber must have been pretty crowded.
The trains to Auschwitz were worse.
Did the crew never suspect?
They knew.
They were consciously smuggling a Jew out of Germany.
They were.
They must have been very brave men.
There were many like them in Germany.
Okay, can we get back to the girl in the photograph?
Her name was Anne Pringle.
Yes, well, what was her connection with my uncle?
Your uncle was very kind to her, at a time when she needed all the kindness she could get. After the baby was born, she was an outcast.
Was my uncle the father of her child?
The father of the child was the pilot of the aircraft that brought me here. His name was Hugo von Schellenberg.
He watched me closely, as though by sheer concentration he would render my thought processes visible. I thought of the woman in the photograph, who was Magda von Schellenberg's mother, and I thought she would never be dead while Magda lived. And I suddenly understood Magda's Temple of Peace and her donation of money to fund it as a retrospective gift to a man whose compassion had leapt across the barrier of war.
Your uncle was a Mensch. You understand that word?
I don't have to.
I've tried to keep this cottage as it was when happiness was here.
Yes. What became of them?
They are both dead.
And you've kept Noctur exactly as it was, as a kind of memorial to them?
Not a memorial. A celebration. I shall miss it very much.
You talk as if you're going away.
The new owner might think that my job is finished.
Oh, speaking on behalf of the new owner, I would have thought it was just beginning.
We shall not meet again.
Why not?
Perhaps because I think it is better. Perhaps because the fat man has made the decision for me.
Oh, he's still harassing you.
He knows no other way to relate to mankind.
Through the window, I watched him as he walked away from the cottage. Stately, dignified, sentimental as a pressed flower. Then he turned a corner and was gone, not even looking back. Nothing to look back for. Just me, Peter Caiman, a younger man abandoned to the future and next year's roses, which might, but would probably not, be wonderful. Then the telephone rang, and the present made its bid for attention against the sad past and the bleak and problematical future. What about me? It shrilled. You can't ignore me. I am now.
Who is that?
Who would you prefer it to be?
Almost anyone else.
Then hang up and dial travel line. Maybe they'll direct you out of my life.
Look, Peter, I'm tired of all this bickering.
Join the club, Jenny.
Let's agree to a truce, shall we?
All right, willingly. But tell me something first.
I'm listening.
You know more about Shaw than you care to admit, correct?
Correct.
Would you care to elaborate?
Well, I first met him during the nuclear waste campaign.
What was his contribution?
Invaluable. And having said that, I'm saying no more.
Yes, but I'd like to ask you if...
No more, Peter.
All right. Why did you phone?
I need your help.
Where are you?
I'm in your office.
She was there too, coolly usurping the chair behind my desk, as presumptuous as Goldilocks. Dunsmore was with her, staring out of the window as if he was worrying which particular bear he represented.
You were quick, Peter.
Yes, what's the problem?
It's Tim Layton.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
He's dying.
So I've heard.
We want you to do something about it.
Look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a priest, I'm a lawyer, and according to you, I'm not even a very good one.
We want you to help us persuade him to go back into the hospital.
A simple yes or no is all that's required.
Oh, all right. Where is he?
The job you offered me, running the Temple of Peace.
Yes?
Jenny and I have decided to accept it.
Great. Suppose Layton tells us to get lost.
We get lost.
What kind of accommodation has he found this time?
Another cave.
Up market or down?
I don't know. He wouldn't let me see inside.
Wise man. You know, I've just had a terrible thought.
You want to share it?
Have I been elected to play Judas in this scenario? I mean, if Layton decides to stay put, do we just leave him to die alone in the cave?
No way.
So we go to the police then?
Wrong again.
Have you made some kind of arrangement for him to be looked after?
Charles has agreed to babysit.
We took a turning and drove along a track. Then the track faded and turf became springy under our feet, and the land fell away on either side until we were climbing along a narrow promontory, at the end of which stood a high wall of rock. And at the foot of this wall we could glimpse the opening of the cave. It was ridiculous, anomalous, a cave in the clouds, as though some crazy angel had been mining for fresh sea air. Tim Layton came out of the cave and walked painfully to meet us. He was thin to the point of emaciation, and he looked tired, as though even to cast a shadow was a great effort.
And who are you, boyo?
My name is Peter Caiman.
And what do you do to earn a crust?
I'm a lawyer.
If you come to tell me my rich uncle in Pennsylvania has just left me all his money, break it to me gently.
He's come to ask you to get back into hospital.
And to look after your rights.
Oh, Isaiah Bach, you're talking very wet. What rights have people like me got? What rights have we ever had? They've got all the rights. That's what you should be shouting about.
They've got the right to destroy anything that walks or swims or crawls.
Mr. Leighton.
Don't talk about my rights, Mr. Lawyer, because they don't add up to nothing. Along comes a pair of fancy doctors, and they sign a piece of paper, and that's me clapped in hospital like it was a jail. Then when I goes adrift, they comes after me.
I'm sorry to...
Oh, you meant well, Jenny. But you have had a wasted journey. As for you, Mr. Lawyer, you can do me a favour. Take this message from me to whoever it may concern. I shall die without your help and with my own dignity.
He turned and walked away. Timothy Leighton, nobody of nowhere in particular. And I saw him enter the cave and disappear into its darkness. We talked about him on the way back, and it was the way people talk on the way back from a funeral.
He was one of the gentlest people I've ever met.
How long did you know him?
7, 8 years.
And you, Isaiah?
Oh, not quite that long.
I remember him telling me about his one great failing.
What was that?
He tried to tame a curlew, but the bird didn't want to know.
Why a curlew?
Well, I think he felt a special affinity for them. He used to say, the curlew in autumn moves to the coast and is silent.
I dropped Jenny and Isaiah Dunsmore in town and looked in at the office to see who was feeling deprived without my services. 2 people were waiting for me. One was the chief constable, and the other was a very, very fat man.
You keep a regular office hours, Peter?
Have they made it a criminal offence?
Sometimes you remind me of your uncle. The same dry wit.
Aye.
I thought we should clear up the little misunderstanding you had with Bullivant this morning.
What misunderstanding?
Aye. I'm glad you're prepared to forgive and forget.
I didn't say that.
Would you care to tell us what you are saying, Calman?
I am saying that there was and is no misunderstanding. I understand you only too well.
Peter, if you're referring to a certain unfortunate incident at Twickenham...
Oh, for God's sake, you know quite well that's what I'm talking about. This fat freak put me in a wheelchair for 2 years.
You were lucky. Does it ever dawn on you how unbearably smug you are, Calman?
You reckon?
The Americans have a saying, I'd rather be right than be president. That's you, Calman, isn't it?
Go on.
But who makes the rules? Tell me that, Calman.
No.
Who decides what is right and what is wrong?
May I interrupt here? I'm not up and out, but I'm afraid I do have to go now. You don't mind, Peter?
Oh, no, not at all.
Right, I'll see you both tomorrow.
So, where were we?
Rules. And who makes them, remember?
Yes. You said I was unbearably smug. Why?
I was put out of the game too. And permanently I was banned. Ostracized. Asked to take my kids away from school.
You know, one thing baffles me, Bullivant. That day at Twickenham. Why did you do what you did?
You were making us look ridiculous. I'm sorry, Calman. I am sorry. No, it's water under the bridge anyway.
Oh, you're wrong there, Bullivant.
I don't think so.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think someone was at that game and saw what happened. Someone who said to himself, now there is a fine, vicious little Englander if ever we need one. And, of course, in time they did. And that someone represents the people who make the rules in this country or dispense with them altogether if necessary.
I might just have a word with them about you.
Why not? Just drop my name in casually when you tell them how you disposed of Morag Nicolson.
You astonish me, Calman.
In what way?
You're so bloody naive.
Oh, you expect too much from a simple country lawyer.
I'd have expected you to appreciate the fact that down here you're only 36 miles from Northern Ireland.
Oh, does that mean that the closer you are to Northern Ireland, the easier it is to get away with murder?
You simply don't.
I realise the extent of your gratitude to the men who picked you off that scrap heap.
Is being loyal a crime?
I think that question was answered at Nuremberg.
You make me sick, Calman. You and all the other weak sisters.
These same weak sisters stopped you dumping nuclear waste around here, Bullivant.
You're weak sisters, all of you. You, Calman, and Dunsmore, and that stupid bossy girl. You're innocents, every last one of you. Babes in a wood filled with wolves. Do you know how your Jewish friend from Nocta arrived in this country?
He told me.
Do you know his real name?
Yes, he told me that too.
And did you know that he was a prominent member of the German team of scientists that was trying to develop an atomic bomb?
No. No, I didn't.
Why didn't he go back to Germany after the war ended?
Or perhaps he remembered too many people like you.
He stayed here because he was a sleeper. An agent who lies doggo for years if necessary, until the time is right for him to become energized.
Rubbish.
And you all bought his story, didn't you? The whole Mills and Boone schmaltz.
So, Scholl was a spy, was he?
Yes. And so was that bloody Taffy who lived in the cave.
Oh, not to mention myself, and Jenny, and Dunsmore, and the Chief Constable. Yes? Yes, he's here. It's for you.
Bullivant. Huh? No, I'll come at once. Your Jewish pal and that crazy Welshman are holed up in a cave. There's been a shooting.
Looking back, I don't know why I went with him, or even why he raised no objection. I think he was high at the prospect of violence. He had probably looked the way he did now. That afternoon he broke my back.
You and I, Calman, live in different worlds.
You're dead right. You're a kind of leftover from the Spanish Inquisition. A hunter of heretics.
Hunter of heretics? I rather like that.
Yes. The trouble is, you not only hunt them, you define them as well.
You rate me too highly.
I rate you about 10 places below Jack the Ripper.
Not fair, Calman.
And like Jack the Ripper, you'll probably get away with it.
Get away with what?
Killing Morag Nicolson and fitting up Scholl and Timothy Layton.
Did I do all that?
Nothing will persuade me otherwise. We turned down the road that led to the cave and found Archie Douglas waiting.
What's the situation, Constable?
They're still in the cave, sir.
Any more shooting?
I'm just back in shot, sir.
Look, why don't you let me try to talk to them?
No.
Eh? You want them dead, don't you? That's the way you've written the script.
And you've written yours, and it's all white flags and sweet reasons.
Look, let me at least go
there.
If
you attempt to interfere in any way, I shall shoot you.
I should have called his bluff, but I knew it was no bluff at all. So I stood there, safe in my principles, while Bullivant went dodging up the hill. And a terrible silence fell as he reached the mouth of the cave, and Tim Layton stood up and blew Bullivant's head off. And the silence continued, as Tim threw the gun away and walked down the hill towards me, with his hands above his head.
Well, Mr. Lawyer, you're in the right place at the right time.
Yes, I suppose so, Mr. Layton.
I'm proper vexed about Mr. Scholl.
What happened?
Well, when we first spotted the coppers, and I told him what I had in mind, there was a bit of an argument. He tried to grab the gun from me, and we struggled back and forward, and the gun went off.
He's dead?
Yes. I'm vexed about him, but not about the other fellow. I saw his face as he came up the hill. He looked just like an executioner.
That night we drove down to Dungrennan Bay, Jenny, Dunsmore and myself, and stood gazing at the atomic complex and wondered what we were. The Three Wise Men, the Three Stooges, the Three Musketeers, or simply the Three Blind Mice. I thought of Bullivant, and some wise words of Robert Louis Stevenson came into my mind. It is not the hangman who dishonours society. It is society that dishonours the hangman. Then I thought of Tim Layton, who killed Bullivant and who loved curlews. The curlew in autumn, he said, moves to the coast and is silent. And the strange thought came that perhaps it will not always be so. Perhaps one day the curlew will stop moving, blindly obedient, to the coast or anywhere else, and it will find a voice and break its silence and change the world.
In episode 6 of Curlew in Autumn by Edward Boyd, Peter Calman was played by David Ashton. Isaiah Dunsmore was played by Gregor Fisher, Jenny by Stella Forge, Superintendent Bullivant by Arthur Boland, Walter Hansford by Ronald Aitken, Shaw by Brown Darby, Chief Constable McGuffog by John Buick, Constable Archie Douglas by Robert Paterson, and Tim Layton by Tom Criddle. Curlew in Autumn was directed in our Edinburgh studios by Patrick Rayner.